Eden Grower Creedmoor here today, coming to you from my main garden in Piedmont, North Carolina. I had a request from a friend on one of my Facebook pages who suggested that maybe I do a little discussion about these Egyptian walking onions that I like to grow. I'm hoping that y'all can see them here. Anyway, right behind me is a small cluster of the Egyptian walking onions that were given to me several years ago by a local friend who suggested they might be a good addition to my garden. At the time, I was not using the Eden method. So as long as I've been using the Eden method, we've had walking onions. It's roughly 8 years from this point. Anyway, a couple of things I want to say about these guys is that they're really resilient, they're really tough against insects, they're really tough on wood chips. They tend to break the wood chips down really, really fast. And that's always a good thing when you're trying to form new soils above bad soils down below, which is kind of how we grow here. We keep the bad soil down and we put the good soil on top, and that's what we grow in. Previous civilizations found great results at going over the top of the old ones, and we're kind of doing the same thing. It works really well. And it really works with this particular onion. And the reason it works for this onion is because this onion loves the lignin-rich soil that's being built here by the worms and the soil decomposers, built here utilizing these wood chips that I keep on my property, composting them, decomposing them, enriching them with fungi and enriching them with natural organic nitrogen sources and turning them over to keep them aerobic. That's what's added to my garden every year. I would do it every day if I could, but anyway, it brings us to this situation. The situation is that not everybody has the finest wood chip compost to use. Some people are just getting the wood chips from the trucks and it goes right to the garden. And that's fine and dandy, and it's made even more fine and dandy when we add this little onion right here. Because this onion, I don't know what it is about it, but when it gets involved in the soil chemistry, it tends to break down those wood chips. I don't know if it's because it invites a lot of fungi. I don't know if it's because it invites the other decomposers or what. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's because it's what it does best. But it definitely does it well. I have a small stand of onions that are over here outside of the camera's view. I planted them a few years back because I wanted them to break down enough soil so I had a good reserve of broken down decomposed soil within the garden that was ready and able for me to use for some of my other root crops. In particular, I like to grow carrots. Y'all have seen my carrot videos before, and carrots, they tend to require a much finer bit of soil. Since I'm a big fan of cultivating my own soil, this particular companion crop makes that work for me. So as well as breaking down the soil and as well as doing what it does, of course, based on its own genetic code, it produces fine green leaves that can be eaten just as they are. This is not a fine green leaf. This is actually a stipe that had an onion set on it before. I popped it off so that I could inspect it, and I don't know where it went. I planted it somewhere. I must have dropped it. So yeah, I'm going to have another one growing. But anyway, all of this stuff down here you see can be eaten just like green onions. It can be cut up, it can be diced up, it can be chopped up. The stem that comes up and produces, hopefully you can see this, the bulbette on top, is now its main function is to support the regrowth or next year's crop. It's going to continue to develop this onion set on top, and even above that another stipe is grown, and there's going to be another set of bulbettes on the top of that. I don't know if it's just hedging its bets or it's just come to know that producing two sets of seeds works better. I really can't tell you. But I can tell you it's nice to have those two sets of seeds, because more often than not what we do is we harvest the larger set and then we can use the smaller set to cultivate new plants. So sort of dual functioning. We can eat a little bit and we can plant a little bit. I don't know that many other crops that do that exactly as they do. In this particular case, a lot of people have asked me before, they say, hey, Creedmoor, man, what's up with the onions, man? Those don't have very big onions on the bottom. Well, these guys right here, when you pull them up, they don't have much of an onion, not really a traditional round onion. It's more of an elongated and smushed flat kind of an onion. And because of that, that's why we really don't harvest those for that particular part. That's why we grow it more as a perennial. It grows through the hot summers and through the cool winters. In the Piedmont of North Carolina, it might get down to the teens for a short period of time, but it never stays down there like it does up in the north. We do get wind, and actually one of the reasons why I'm trying to shoot this video now is because we're in a calm before the storm. We're supposed to get some rain later, and earlier in the day when I tried this, it was just too windy. I had to abandon the concept because the wind was blowing through my Bluetooth mouthpiece, and it just didn't pan out. But that happens all the time. It's on me. That's where I choose to live. As you can see, it doesn't seem to hurt my plants any. For the most part, my plants and the trees, they love the wind, they love the rain, they love everything else. So some of the things that I love about these guys right here is that I can take these little bulblets off, select the largest one, and cut them up just a little bit, put them in a pan, put them in with a little bit of oil, a little bit of butter, and they open up, kind of like a flower opening up. That can be used to add to pretty much anything you want to eat, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Anywhere you might have used onions already, it's going to work really well. Another thing we like to do is we like to take the largest ones again and peel just a little bit, take a little bit of nitrile off the outside of them, put them on a baking sheet, stick them in the oven, and dry them out completely. Once they're dried out completely, you can bring them out, let them cool, they can go into a coffee grinder, and in moments, voila, you have brand new, fresh Eden onion powder. It's just a great, great crop to grow. It has great potential for creating a barricade or creating a border area around the outside of your garden to help sort of give some shape and some form to the boundaries. It helps to keep some of those insects at bay that don't really appreciate the flavor, the smell, the sense of the onions like these. They are fairly pungent, and I can even hear right now the wind is picking up, so I'm going to try and make it short and sweet. In any event, like I said, some of the most common things that you will find others appreciate about them is that they do work really well in stews. They do work really well if people don't like the texture of a traditional round onion, which I don't know if you can see. I have red onions growing over there. Might be just out of the view of the camera. We'll touch base on them another time. Maybe I can show you some of those harvests. But in this case, as a perennial crop, they stay in the ground. Put them on the outside of the garden. I'm trading out some of the other onions for them because these guys are more insect resistant. And anytime you find a companion that's insect resistant, that grows well in your chips, in your soil, you want to go with it. In the 8 years that we've been growing them, this cluster that sits behind me has done exactly this every spring. Every spring they come in, they're the most beautiful green that you've ever seen. They smell really, really, really wonderful. And the freeze comes in, this particular area right here gets this little node formed on it. It almost looks like the onion's been stretched, and before you know it, the seeds begin to form. It's just a great, great southern crop. I think it works well as a northern crop too. Don't quote me on that, but I'd say if you're up there around New York or in the Long Island area, you probably could get this to grow in your sandy soils. Anyway, keep watching. Check me out later.